Welcome back, everyone, to Dating Decoded. I am Frank, and I'm here as always with my fantastic co-host, Rosalina.
Hey, everyone. It's so good to be back in the studio with you, Frank. And I'm especially excited today because, we're diving into, our third installment of top day game tips. I honestly think this one might be the best yet.
You know what? I agree. I feel like we've been building up to this, right? We covered the initial tips in part 1, then we went a bit deeper in part 2, and now this is where we really hit the sweet spot, I think. This is where things get really interesting.
And for those of you who've been following along, a huge thank you. We really appreciate you tuning in. And if you're new here, a warm welcome. Make sure you go back and check out our previous episodes, especially the first 2 parts of our Day Game Tips series. You don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, and before we jump into these amazing new tips, just a quick reminder for all of you loyal listeners and the new ones too, please remember to like this podcast, subscribe to Dating Decoded, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. It really helps us out, and it means we can keep bringing you this awesome content.
It really, really does. And Frank, I've got to say, I'm just buzzing about these tips today. Some of these are quite fundamental, but also often overlooked, wouldn't you say?
Oh, completely overlooked. I think people get so caught up in the initial approach, the opening lines, what to say, and then they kind of forget about the bigger picture, the long game, if you will.
Right? And that's what we're going to dive into today. We've got some really practical, actionable advice that I think our listeners are really going to resonate with. I mean, some of these, you just wonder why you didn't think of them sooner.
Yeah, it's that sort of like common sense, but then you need someone to actually spell it out for you to go, oh, of course. So are you ready to get into it, Rosalina?
Oh, I am so ready, Frank. Let's do this.
All right, so let's kick things off with our first tip for today, which is number 11 on our overall list. And it's a classic phrase, really, but super applicable here. And it's always be closing.
Ooh, I love that. It's got that kind of, salesy, confident vibe to it. Like, you're not just there to chat. You're there to achieve a goal.
Exactly. And in the context of day game, always be closing refers to consistently, almost instinctively, asking for contact details after an approach. We're talking Instagram, phone number, Snapchat, whatever that connection point is for you. And I think this is where a lot of people, trip up. They have a great conversation, they build a little rapport, and then they just kind of let it fizzle out because they don't go for the close. It's like you've done all the hard work. Why stop there?
It's true. And it's not just about getting the number, Rosalina. It's about making it a habitual practice, like almost a reflex. The more you do it, the less of a big deal it becomes. And frankly, it drastically reduces that rejection fear.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because if you're not even asking, you're not even giving yourself the chance, right? And I think there's this internal pressure people put on themselves, like, oh, if I ask, it means I'm really putting myself out there. But you already are by approaching.
You already are. It's just the next logical step. And here's a little trick that I actually picked up from, some of the folks in the PUA community. Although we're just talking about general dating advice here, right? But it's about handing over your phone.
Yes, that's a game changer for so many.
It is. Instead of asking for her number or her Instagram, you hand your phone over and say, hey, why don't you put your Instagram in here or pop your number in? It creates like a slight obligation, it's a natural progression, and it takes the pressure off her having to offer it. It's just, here, do this.
It's a subtle but powerful shift, isn't it? Because then it's less of a direct, will you give me your number, and more of a, here's how we can continue this conversation. It feels more collaborative somehow. And it also, I think, makes you appear more confident, like you expect it to happen.
Absolutely. It's about conveying that, this is just what happens now. We've had a great chat, so let's connect. And it also avoids that awkward moment where she might say, oh, I don't give out my number. If you've got your phone out, it's just a different dynamic. It's like, here's the tool, fill it in.
It really does bypass a lot of that internal monologue that might go on. Like, instead of her thinking, do I want to give him my number? She's just thinking, okay, where do I type this? It reduces the friction points.
Precisely. And the more you do it, the less fear you'll have of that moment. When I first started, my heart would pound like, oh my God, am I going to ask? And now it's just part of the interaction. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you're always trying. That's the key.
Right, because it becomes less about the outcome of this one interaction and more about the habit of always making the attempt. And that in itself is a win. Even if you don't get the number, you've practiced the skill.
Exactly. It's a muscle you're building, and the whole point is to reduce that fear of asking because that's often the biggest barrier for people. They're afraid of that little moment, that tiny fraction of a second where they might get a no.
And, often if you don't ask, you'll regret it more than if you do ask and get a no. At least if you ask, you know where you stand. And if you don't, you're left wondering, what if?
Total clarity. Yeah. So always be closing, folks. Make it a habit. Get that number. Get that Instagram. It's crucial.
That's a perfect lead-in, Frank, because our next tip, number 12 in this series, is directly related to making that always be closing habit stick. This one is called play the numbers.
Ah, yes. The mathematicians among us will appreciate this. It's really about quantity over perfection, especially when you're starting out.
Exactly. The overview here is increase approach frequency, for example, from 3 to 30 per week to improve results, emphasizing quantity to overcome lack of success. And I think this is where, a lot of people get bogged down. They try to make every single approach perfect, and then they don't do enough of them.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym. You can read all the books you want about lifting weights, but if you don't actually get under the bar and do the reps, you're not going to build any muscle. It's the same thing with day game. You need to get out there and actually do the approaches.
Right, and that range, 3 to 30, that's a huge spectrum, but it illustrates the point that it's not about, I'll go out once a week and try to get that one perfect interaction. It's about getting reps in.
Absolutely. When I first started, I was probably doing maybe 5 approaches a week if I was really, really pushing it. And then once you start to realize, okay, this is a skill and skills are built through repetition, you realize you need to bump those numbers up.
And I think it ties back to the fear of rejection too, right? If you're only doing a few approaches, each one feels like it carries immense weight. Like, this has to work, otherwise my whole day is ruined. But if you're doing 20, 30, suddenly one no is just, a blip.
Yeah, exactly. It's just data. It's like, okay, that one didn't work, moving on to the next. And honestly, the more you do it, the less personal it feels, too. You realize it's often not even about you.
No, not at all. It could be they're having a bad day, they're in a hurry, they just got bad news, they're already in a relationship. The reasons are endless, and most of them have nothing to do with whether you're, a charming individual or not.
Exactly. So by increasing the frequency, you're doing a few things. You're desensitizing yourself to rejection, which is huge. You're building confidence because you're getting more comfortable in these situations, and you're just getting more feedback, right? You're seeing what works, what doesn't.
And quickly, too. If you're only approaching once a week, it takes forever to collect enough data points to actually learn anything. But if you're doing 5 a day, you can see patterns emerging much faster.
Totally. And I remember talking to one of the authors, from some of these day game books, and he said that the biggest breakthrough for most guys is just increasing their approach volume. You can learn all the fancy lines and techniques you want, but if you're not actually talking to people, it's all theoretical.
Yeah, it's like learning to swim by watching videos. You gotta get in the water.
Exactly. And, some people might hear 30 approaches a week and think, whoa, that's a lot. How do I even fit that in? But it doesn't have to be full-on hour-long conversations. It can be quick, short interactions. It's about getting that initial contact.
Yeah, it could be a simple compliment, a quick question, just to initiate. And then if it doesn't flow, you move on. The goal isn't to get a number from every single person. It's just to start the conversation with more people.
Right. The goal is to get into the habit of approaching, because once that becomes effortless, then you can focus on like refining your technique, your conversation skills, your closing skills. But you can't refine something you're not doing regularly.
It's almost like a mental reset button, isn't it? Like, if you have a bad approach, you don't dwell on it for days. You're like, okay, well, there are 29 more I'm going to do this week, so that one was just one of them. It really lessens the pressure.
It does. And I mean, when I first started, I'd go out for an hour and be like super nervous and probably do one approach. And then I'd feel exhausted and go home. But then you realized, okay, if I'm just out living my life, walking around, running errands, I can just like naturally sprinkle in these approaches.
Exactly. It becomes part of your day, not a separate, high-stakes event that you have to block out time for and dread.
And that's where the idea of just going out becomes key. Don't just go out to approach. Go out to live your life and then approach as part of that. See a coffee shop you like? Go in. See someone interesting? Say hello. It's just a natural extension of being social.
Yeah, it's like it's a byproduct of just being a functional human being in society. And I think that's a much healthier mindset than, I'm going hunting today.
Absolutely. So playing the numbers, it's fundamental. You got to get the reps in. If you're struggling, if you feel that fear, just bump up your frequency. Even if it's just from 3 to 5 or 5 to 10, just increase it incrementally.
So, on that note of natural extensions of being social, that actually leads perfectly into our next tip, which is move her.
Oh, move her. This is where things get a little bit more dynamic. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's not about physically picking someone up, just to be clear. Although, I'm kidding. The goal here is, invite a woman to walk with you, for example, to a cafe or a park, to create a shared experience, strengthening your bond through movement and interaction.
Right. It's about transitioning from a static interaction to a dynamic one. You've had that initial approach, maybe a little bit of conversation, and now it's like, okay, let's change the scenery. Let's do something together, even if it's just a short walk.
Exactly. Because if you're just standing there, on a street corner or in a shop, it can feel a little bit like, well, it's always an approach situation. It's not a natural social interaction yet. But when you start moving, it shifts the dynamic.
Yeah, it immediately feels less like an interview, doesn't it? Like if you're just standing there, it's almost like a job interview. But if you're walking towards a cafe, you're on a shared mission, even if it's just for a coffee. It creates a completely different vibe.
And it's so subtle, too. It's not like you're saying, hey, let's go on a full-blown date right now. It's just, hey, there's a cool coffee shop just around the corner. Want to grab a quick latte? Or the park entrance is right there. It's a beautiful day. Why don't we walk and chat for a bit?
Yeah, it's a micro commitment. You're getting them to invest a little bit more in the interaction without it being a huge ask. And that investment, even if it's just a 5-minute walk, it deepens the connection.
And physically, it just changes things. You're walking side by side, you're perhaps experiencing things together, pointing things out, sharing observations about your surroundings. It's not just about two people talking, it's two people doing something together.
Exactly. It creates shared context. You're observing the world together, right? Like, oh, look at that dog, or, oh, this street's really busy today. And that provides natural conversation starters that are external to the two of you, which can be really helpful.
Yes, it takes the pressure off because if you're just standing there, you're relying entirely on your verbal banter and your conversational skills, which are important, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you hit a low and it can feel awkward. But if you're moving, there's always something new to see or react to.
And I think it also tests a little bit of compliance, which is a big thing in, building attraction. It's like, are they willing to follow your lead? Are they willing to engage in this next step with you? And if they are, that's a good sign.
And it weeds out people who are just being polite, too. If someone genuinely isn't interested, they'll often make an excuse not to walk with you. But if they agree, then there's at least some level of interest there.
That's a great point. It's a natural filter. And it's also, I think, for the person doing the approaching, it's a way to feel more comfortable because you're not just statically standing there trying to figure out what to say next. You're actively moving, which can actually help with your own nervousness.
Oh, for sure. Movement is such a natural human thing. Like, we're not meant to just stand frozen. So it feels much more organic and less forced.
I remember one time I was approaching a woman outside a bookstore, and we were chatting, and I just said, "Hey, I was actually just heading to this little park a couple blocks away to clear my head. Do you want to walk with me for 5 minutes?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, it's a beautiful day. Why not?" And it just totally changed the dynamic. We ended up talking for 30 minutes in the park.
See, that's a perfect example. It's not a big commitment. It's just an invitation to share a small, natural experience. And then, boom, you've got rapport building right there.
And I think it's also a good way to escalate. If you do get the number, then you can say, "Hey, maybe next time we could grab a coffee at that place we passed." It gives you a natural reason to meet up again.
Yeah, it's the bridge. It's not the destination, but it's an essential bridge to getting there. And it's also about being resourceful, right? Using your environment.
Yeah, exactly. Don't just stand there. Think about what's around you. Is there a bench nearby? Is there a fountain? Is there, a coffee shop? Any natural place you can suggest moving to.
And it doesn't have to be far. Even just moving 5 feet to get out of someone's way or to look at something can be enough to break that initial ice and create that shared moment.
Little micro moves can make a big difference. This is definitely one of those tips that sounds simple but is incredibly effective.
Simple and brilliant. So move her, don't forget it, get that shared experience going.
So we've talked about moving, we've talked about playing the numbers, we've talked about always closing. Yeah, and this next tip is all about going deeper with conversation. For example, asking probing questions like, what attracted you to that? To uncover her beliefs and passions and to foster deeper attraction and rapport.
I love that example question. What attracted you to that? It's so simple, yet it's so powerful because it immediately shifts from surface level to what's behind that interest.
Right. Instead of just saying, "Oh, that's a cool band t-shirt," or "Oh, you're reading that book." It's like, what is it about that band that you love so much? Or what drew you to that particular author or subject? You're getting into their psychology in a way.
Yeah, you're not just acknowledging the thing, you're acknowledging the person's connection to the thing. And that's a huge difference because people love talking about what they love.
Absolutely. And this is where, a lot of the classic PUA literature, they talk about values and passions and, what makes someone tick. It's not just about what they do, it's about why they do it or why they're interested in it.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with some of those authors back in the day, and that was always the core message. Get to the core of what drives someone, because that's what's truly attractive, right? When you see someone light up talking about something they're passionate about.
Yeah, it's magnetic. And it's also how you differentiate yourself from everyone else who's just, making generic small talk about the weather or how's your day going? Anybody can do that.
And frankly, it's boring for both parties. If you're just going through the motions of polite conversation, nobody's enjoying themselves. But if you ask a question that makes someone pause and actually think and then share something genuinely meaningful, that's instant connection.
Yeah. And it builds rapport so much faster because you're showing a genuine interest in them as a person, not just as, a pretty face or someone to fill 5 minutes of time.
And it's not even about having the perfect, most clever question. Sometimes it's just about following up on something they said. Like if they mention they volunteer, instead of just saying, "Oh, that's nice," you could say, "What sparked your interest in that cause?" Or "What's the most rewarding part of that for you?"
Yeah, you're peeling back the layers. You're trying to find the underlying motivations, and everyone has them. Everyone has beliefs and passions that, they feel strongly about.
Right, it's like an onion. You just keep peeling. And the deeper you go, the more unique and interesting the person becomes because you're getting away from those superficial layers that everyone presents to the world.
See, that's brilliant because you're not asking about the destination, you're asking about the transformation or the impact of the experience. That's a very different level of engagement. Exactly. And it reveals vulnerability sometimes, which, when handled correctly, can be incredibly powerful for building rapport and attraction because they're sharing something deeper with you.
And it shows you're a good listener, too. You're actually listening for those hooks, those little threads you can pull on to go deeper, rather than just waiting for your turn to talk about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Active listening is key here. You're not just firing off questions like a prosecutor. You're listening to their answers and then finding the next logical, deeper question.
It's a dance, really, a conversational dance. You lead a little, they lead a little, and the deeper you go, the more fluid it becomes.
And I think for some people, this can be a bit intimidating at first. Like, what if I ask something too personal? But you can always calibrate. You start with something light, and if they respond well, then you can go a little deeper.
Yeah, it's not about jumping straight to their deepest fears and desires in the first 5 minutes. It's about gradually building that comfort level where they feel safe sharing more with you.
And it also teaches you a lot about compatibility. Because if you're asking these deeper questions and you find that their core beliefs and values align with yours, well, then you're really onto something. If they're completely off, then you know pretty quickly.
Right? Saves everyone a lot of time and heartache. So go deeper with conversation. Don't be afraid to scratch beneath the surface. You'll find so much more interesting stuff there.
You really will. It's like a treasure hunt for connection, really. I love this tip. It's probably one of the most powerful ones, honestly, for long-term success.
Agreed. Because it's about genuine connection, not just a transaction.
So that was go deeper with conversation, which I think is just crucial. But now we're moving on to something a little more reflective, I guess you could say. Our next tip is simply called journal.
Ooh, okay. This is interesting. I mean, it's not directly about the interaction itself, but more the metagame, right? The self-improvement aspect.
Exactly. The overview for journal is to really just record details of each approach. For example, reaction, nervousness in a journal to reflect on progress and identify improvement areas.
I love this. I mean, it's so fundamental to any kind of self-improvement, isn't it? Whether it's fitness or learning a new skill or apparently day.
Yeah, I mean, you can't improve what you don't measure, right? And so often when you're out there approaching, especially in the beginning, it's a blur. You're just reacting. You're in the moment. You're not really processing.
Totally. And if you're feeling a lot of anxiety or nervousness, it's even harder to remember the details. Like, did she smile when I said that? Or was she just being polite? Your memory can be really unreliable when emotions are running high.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is after each interaction, or maybe at the end of the day, just take a few minutes to jot down what happened. And not just the outcome, like got number or didn't get number. It's the nuances.
Right. Like, what was her initial reaction when I approached her? Did she seem open or was her body language closed? And then, how did I feel during the interaction? Was I stumbling over my words? Was I making good eye contact?
And I think that nervousness part is key, because for so many guys, that's the biggest hurdle. And if you're tracking it, you can see how it changes over time. Maybe the first 10 approaches, your hands are shaking, your voice is trembling. But by the 50th, you're like, oh, I only felt a little flutter.
Yeah, you can literally plot your anxiety levels. And that's incredibly motivating, just seeing that reduction, because it proves that you are getting more comfortable, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Yeah, and it helps normalize it too. Like, okay, that's just how I feel when I do this. It's not a sign of failure, it's just part of the process.
What about identifying specific improvement areas? How does the journal help with that?
Well, if you're noting down, let's say, that every time you get to a certain point in the conversation, the interaction fizzles out or people start to disengage, you can go back and look at your notes and say, what was I doing around that point? Was I not asking enough open-ended questions? Was I talking too much about myself?
Oh, that's good. It's like a scientific experiment on yourself. You're collecting data.
Totally. And you can start to see patterns. Like maybe you realize every time I open with this specific line, it works really well. Or every time I try to escalate too quickly, I get shut down. You get immediate feedback loops that you wouldn't necessarily notice if you were just, going by gut feeling.
And it gives you specific things to work on for the next time, right? Instead of just saying, oh, I need to get better at day game, it becomes, okay, next time I'm going to focus on slowing down my speech or making sure I ask at least 2 probing questions.
Yeah, exactly. It makes your goals tangible, and it makes your improvements tangible too. Those small wins that build confidence.
And I imagine it also helps with remembering names, if you're getting names, or little details about the person you met.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point, especially if you're trying to keep track of multiple interactions. You might have like 5 approaches in a day. If you don't jot down something about each one, they're all going to blend together.
Totally. Like, was that the woman with the cool hat or the one who loved obscure indie films?
Right? So you can put, met Sarah, cool hat, talked about independent cinema, seemed a bit shy at first, but opened up when I asked about her favorite directors. That's so much more useful than just approached a woman, got number.
And it creates a record of your journey, doesn't it? Like, you can look back over weeks or months and actually see how far you've come. That's really powerful for motivation.
It is. It's like your own personal day game diary. And it can be very vulnerable in a way, because you're writing down not just what happened, but how you felt. And that takes a certain level of courage.
It does. It requires honesty with yourself. But that honesty is what leads to real growth. If you're sugarcoating things or ignoring the parts that didn't go well, you're not learning.
And I think it also helps you externalize some of the negative feelings. Like if you have a bad interaction, instead of just letting it fester in your head, you write it down, you process it, and then you can move on.
Yeah, it's a form of emotional regulation, really. You're acknowledging the experience, learning from it, and then releasing it.
Absolutely. So journal, folks. Even if it's just a few bullet points on your phone or a dedicated notebook, it's invaluable.
Highly recommend. It's one of those foundational habits that transcends just day game. It's for life.
Right. And speaking of foundational habits for life, our final tip for this episode is visualization.
Ooh, this is a good one to end on. I'm a big believer in visualization. It's so powerful.
Me too. This is about meditating daily on your ideal game and girlfriend, using visualization to stay motivated and aim for a specific relationship goal.
Yes, this is basically mental rehearsal, isn't it? It's like athletes who visualize winning the race before they even step onto the track.
Exactly. And it's not just some woo-woo spiritual thing. There's real neuroscience behind how visualization can, prime your brain for success. It builds those neural pathways.
Absolutely. So walk me through this. How does one meditate daily on their ideal game and girlfriend? Is it just like daydreaming?
Well, it's more structured than just daydreaming. It's about setting aside dedicated time, maybe 5 to 10 minutes every day, find a quiet place, close your eyes, and really immerse yourself in the experience.
Like really feel it? The emotions, the sounds, the sights?
Precisely. So when you're visualizing your ideal game, you're not just thinking, oh, I'll be good at talking to women. You're picturing yourself approaching with confidence. Maybe you're seeing yourself smiling, making eye contact, feeling totally relaxed and in control. You're hearing your voice strong and clear.
So it's not just the outcome, but the process of having good game? Like you're visualizing yourself performing at your best.
Yes, exactly. And the ideal girlfriend part is, again, not just a vague idea of someone nice. It's about getting specific. What kind of person is she? What are her qualities? How do you interact with her? What does your ideal relationship look like?
This sounds like it could almost be a little, too prescriptive for some people. Like, are you putting too much pressure on finding a specific type of person?
That's a fair point. It's not about being rigid and only looking for one exact person. It's more about clarifying what you truly want and what kind of relationship would bring you happiness. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, you're less likely to recognize it when it appears.
That's very true. It helps you recognize opportunities and, filter out what's not aligned with your deeper desires.
And also, it helps you understand yourself better, because what you visualize often reflects your own values and aspirations. If you visualize a relationship where you're constantly learning and growing,
That tells you something about what's important to you.
So it's like a compass guiding your actions and your mindset. If you have this clear picture, it becomes easier to stay motivated even when things are tough.
Oh, absolutely. That's the core of it, right? Staying motivated. Day game can be frustrating sometimes. You're gonna face rejection. You're gonna have days where it feels like nothing is working.
And on those days when you feel like giving up, having that strong, positive image of your future self and your ideal relationship, that can pull you through.
It's like your North Star. You remind yourself why you're doing this. You're not just doing it to get a number. You're doing it because you're working towards something bigger, something meaningful.
And it's not just about getting a girlfriend, is it? It's about being the kind of person who attracts that kind of relationship. If you're visualizing confidence, kindness, adventurousness, you start embodying those traits.
Yeah, you really do, because your subconscious mind starts to work towards what you're consistently feeding it. If you're constantly seeing yourself as successful and happy in a relationship, your brain will start to look for ways to make that a reality.
It's almost like self-fulfilling prophecy, but in a really positive way. You're not just wishing for it, you're mentally training for it.
And I've talked to authors, too, about this. Some of the folks who, they've written these books on success and manifestation, they all emphasize the power of clear, consistent visualization. It's a cornerstone of high performance in any field, really.
It makes sense if you're putting in the work in the real world with your approaches, and then you're also doing the mental work, you're just accelerating your progress.
And it helps with the fear, too. If you're visualizing successful interactions and positive outcomes, it starts to chip away at the fear of rejection because your brain has already experienced success.
So, for listeners thinking about trying this, what's a good starting point? Just close your eyes and imagine?
Start simple. Maybe pick one small aspect first. For example, visualize yourself walking up to someone with perfect posture and a genuine smile. Feel what that feels like. Do it for a few minutes, then gradually build up to visualizing an entire conversation or a date or your entire ideal future together.
And consistency is key, right? Every day, even if it's just 5 minutes.
Make it a habit. Absolutely. Treat it like brushing your teeth. It's a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. And over time, the cumulative effect is just incredible. It really does transform your mindset.
I think that's a brilliant tip to wrap up this series on. It really brings together the inner game and the outer game, doesn't it? Because you need both.
Yeah, you absolutely do. The external actions are important, but if your internal world isn't aligned, you're always going to be fighting against yourself.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
Couldn't agree more. And wow, Rosalina, we've just covered, that's like another 5 powerful tips, right? From always be closing to visualizing your ideal future.
We did. It's been quite the journey today, Frank. We talked about always be closing, play the numbers, move her, go deeper with conversation, journaling, and visualize your ideal future. Whew, that's a lot of actionable insights.
It really is. And I got to say, this third part of our day game series, it just feels like we really delved into some of the more comprehensive aspects, not just the initial approach, but sustaining and growing connections.
Definitely. It's a holistic approach, which I think is so important when you're talking about something like dating and relationships. It's not just about one moment. It's about building yourself and building connections.
Absolutely. So to all our amazing listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in to Dating Decoded today. We really, really appreciate you spending your time with us.
Yes, thank you all. Your support means the world, honestly.
And hey, if you found these tips helpful, or if you just enjoyed our banter, you know what to do. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the Dating Decoded podcast wherever you listen.
And don't forget to hit that notification bell too, so you don't miss out on any future episodes. We've got more exciting content coming your way in this series, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that.
That's right. This isn't the end, just the end of this particular segment. We're already cooking up the next in the series of Dating Decoded podcasts.
It's going to be, well, you know us, it'll be just as insightful. Perhaps even more so. We're always trying to up our game for you guys.
Always pushing, always learning. So, from me, Frank,
And me, Rosalina.
until next time, keep decoding your dating life.
Bye, everyone.